There's a moment in life when doing the right thing suddenly becomes costly, when the world around you shifts, and you're left standing there, trying to decide whether you'll bend or stand firm. This is where we meet Daniel, not as a young boy, not as the teenager who first arrived in Babylon, but as an older man, faithful, steady, and respected. A man whose quiet devotion to God would soon place him face to face with a den full of lions. Daniel had lived through kings and kingdoms. He had seen Nebuchadnezzar rise to power, lose his mind, and return again. He had served under Belshazzar, and now under Darius, one of the most powerful rulers in the world at that time. Even after all these years, Daniel hadn't changed. He still prayed. He still sought God. He still walked with integrity. And because of that, Daniel wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. Darius trusted him more than anyone. Out of all the officials in the kingdom, Daniel stood out, not because he was flashy or loud, but because he was faithful, dependable, honest. And sometimes, when you stand out like that, not everyone likes it. The other high officials and leaders started noticing Daniel's influence, how the king listened to him, how he rose above everyone else. Jealousy has a certain look to it. It whispers, "Why him? Why not me?" These officials searched for anything they could use against Daniel. Some past mistake, some hidden flaw, some weakness. But the thing about Daniel is, he lived openly. He lived clean. He lived with integrity when no one was watching. So they found nothing. But jealousy is persistent. It doesn't give up. So they changed their strategy. If they couldn't attack Daniel's character, they'd attack his faith. They knew Daniel prayed every single day, 3 times a day, facing Jerusalem. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't showy either, just consistent, unwavering devotion. So they went to King Darius with a plan. They said, "O king, we think you should make a new law. For the next 30 days, no one can pray to any god or any person except you. And if they do, throw them into the lion's den." And Darius, flattered, caught up in the moment, signed it, not realizing this law was designed to destroy the one person he trusted most. When Daniel heard about the new law, he didn't panic. He didn't hide. He didn't try to negotiate. He simply went home. He opened the windows just like he always did. He got on his knees just like he always did. And he talked to God just like he always did. It wasn't rebellion. It was relationship. In that moment, Daniel wasn't thinking about lions or laws. He was thinking about the one who had carried him through every season of his life. There is something powerful about routine, faithfulness, those small decisions you make every single day that build strength you don't even realize you have, until the moment you need it. And this was Daniel's moment. The officials were ready. They had planned this down to the minute. They rushed to Daniel's house, found him praying, and immediately went back to the king. "Daniel has broken the law," they said. "He must be punished." And Darius realized he'd been tricked. The story says he tried everything to save Daniel. He worked all day long, searching for a loophole, a way out, anything. But the law was sealed. And once a law of the Medes and Persians was sealed, it could not be undone. Finally, as the sun began to set, the officials pressed in. They demanded the king follow through. And with a heavy heart, Darius ordered Daniel to be brought to the lion's den. Before Daniel was lowered inside, Darius looked at him and said something that reveals just how deeply he respected him. "May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you." The door closed and locked. The seal was set. And suddenly, the world went quiet. We aren't told what happened inside the den at that moment, but we can try to imagine. A cold floor, The sound of slow, heavy breathing from creatures in the dark. The scrape of claws on stone. The warm scent of predators just feet away. Any ordinary person would have been overcome with terror. But Daniel wasn't alone. He later said that God sent an angel unseen, calming presence in the darkness, and that the angel shut the mouths of the lions. Imagine that. Imagine going into the darkest place you could ever imagine, and finding God already there. Meanwhile, King Darius couldn't sleep. He refused entertainment, refused food, paced the floor. For all his power, for all his authority, he couldn't undo his mistake. He couldn't silence the fear inside him. It is interesting how the man in the palace felt more trapped than the man in the lion's den. Sometimes the real prison isn't a place. It's the weight of regret. At dawn, before the sun even broke the horizon, Darius rushed to the den. He called out, his voice shaking, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" A moment of silence. Then a voice, calm, steady, and alive, my king. God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths. They did not harm me. Darius let out a breath he'd been holding all night. Daniel was lifted out, untouched. Not a single scratch. The same God Daniel trusted in prayer was the God who met him in the darkest place and brought him through. Darius didn't remain silent. He issued a new decree, not about himself, but about the God of Daniel. He declared that everyone in his kingdom should honor the living God, a God who rescues, saves, and performs wonders, a God whose kingdom never ends. Daniel continued to prosper. He lived his life with the same steady faith he had always had. And the lions' loud, intimidating, unpredictable lions became reminders of God's quiet, unstoppable protection. Daniel's story isn't only about lions. It's about courage, consistency, quiet faith lived out day after day when no one is watching. It reminds us that devotion doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing to pray, choosing to trust, choosing to stay faithful, even when the world shifts around us. And like Daniel, when we find ourselves in places that feel dark or frightening, we can remember God never leaves us alone in the den. He goes with us, He guards us, and He brings us out often in ways we never expected. Thank you so much for watching.